It is said that art is like an echo chamber in the dialogue with the reality. In my case, the reality, with a great fascination of the phenomenon of tea. Tea is the subject matter of art, topic of art, object of art, and art material. Tea became my living space, my time, my paradigm. The meaning is the use, said Wittgenstein. The meaning of tea is the use of tea. And my challenge is to express the state of tea, which is not possible to convey in symbols of language. Tea ceremonies, with their roots in the Chinese culture, where it often combined with poetry, calligraphy, painting, differ widely in preparation in the countries around the world. Now, by most of the Western public, tea perceived just a beverage, but to me it is changed during life experience to the point that it starts to embody it in an art practice. Following our MA course of Art, Society, Nature, I'm working on adding art in the natural and social phenomenon of tea, to put tea on the art map. As an inhabitant of three tea drinking cultures, Russia, China, and England, I am reflecting on tea within them and approaching it from design, biology, sinology, ethnology, and religious study background, observing how this transdisciplinarity simultaneously widening and narrowing directions of theories and practices. There is an impact on me throughout philosophical and practical aspect of Zen Buddhism, where tea played an important role, and it was naturally incorporated in my art research, of which Chinese tea culture is the main reference. There is a famous saying, Zen and tea has one taste. In another translation, the flavor of tea is the flavor of Zen. In the West, many people would think of colonialism, wars, taxes when they hear word tea. For some, it is associated with politics, history, and economy. But at this point of my aesthetical journey, main focus was on a practical research on plasticity of tea and on answering questions. What potential does tea have as an art material, and how tea state of mind can be presented in art form, using methodology of material culture. And I assumed that for talking about tea, the best material would be the tea itself. On this journey, I did not meet many artists who worked with the tea as an art material. Not many chances to explore this topic on others' work. Westerners mostly using the paper of the tea bags, making installation out of it, painting on it. But Chinese artist Ai Weiwei used pressed dry tea leaves for his sculpture, A Ton of Tea. Tea is a challenging art process by its limitations. I was working with tea in a liquid form, dry tea leaves form, and tea stains, combining it together, and with paper, canvas, photographs. The big role in research on plasticity of tea played ready-made. It was an attempt to answer the question how tea aesthetic can be presenting and how tea works can structure the space, and investigate the tension between nature, culture, theories, society, art, and artist. Tea leaves is not a pliable material, fragile and monochromic. Tea in a liquid form also had limited artistic abilities, with its distinguished color akin to watercolor. Tea stains has potential for different art forms. When I started to discover tea stain form, I came to an art of paper cut and artists like Chiharu Shioti and Hugh Loki. Combination of tea, paper, and emptiness became my meditation on the tea footprints and formed the path that led me to create a sculpture installation Tea Mandala with inspiration of artworks of James Turrell and Dan Fleming of Light and Space Movement.
Exercise for the sculpture class on the way of search for the materiality of tea. There is source of light in the center, passes between pillars, but not through its dense paper, rolled tubes, does not let the light through. The light comes out only in the gaps between the columns. resembling the night city, a detail of the urban landscape, with the skyscrapers glowing on a background light. The light emitted from within passes only through the narrow empty space, but delayed by text, by narrative. The text does not possible to read, it goes away from the view, wraps around itself, belongs to itself. But at the same time the text pillars hold the horizon of event, it rests the mirror, that reflects the space, it rests the place for meditation, and the realty and stains, that hint the presence of the humans. There is an obvious concern about the fluidity. This is the basic structure of the mental world, which consists of barely touching each other elements, that hold together by the earth gravity. An instant view on the fragile forms, passages of text, diagrams and names, images of people, a mirror, the reflection tool, and an invisible source of light, that breaks through the barriers. This passage from the Diamond Sutra encompasses it all, without grasping at characteristics, in its suchness. All conditioned things are like dreams, illusions, bubbles, or shadows, like drops of dew, or flashes of lightning. Thusly should they be contemplated.
Fundamental relationship between the viewer and the work of art originates in material experience. Materiality forms the cornerstone of contemporary art's conceptual ground. It is self-aware of itself and aspects of material and processes. Material choice in a digital age, when people more accustomed to interacting in digital realm, is significant, and it is embodied in the viewer's imagination. Tim Ingold wrote that the abstract concept of materiality has hindered the proper understanding of materials, and by engaging directly with the materials themselves, following what happened to them as they circulate, mix with one another, and dissolve in the formation of more or less enduring things, we would learn more, and we will discover that materials are active. I did not have to look for long for the visual aesthetic of my videos. It naturally opened itself with the tea as the main video material, as water and Bill Viola's work, but in a manner of James Benning. There is no special lights, no settings, no actors, just camera and static composition. No humans dictate action. It is just liquid and light in a naturally breathing photograph. But I also tried to incorporate other images to illustrate different tea moods, to play with the expression "my cup of tea", to reveal variety of different tea state of mind, and to experiment with animation. In the ancient Taoist concept of the world, a cup of tea symbolizing the sea. Life in a Chinese tea culture has left an imprint on my worldview. With the course of the circumstances, my tea project starts in England, also the tea culture country, and a country that has a fundamental connection with the sea. The video 4 Cups of Tea was made on the shore of North Sea to visualize the Taoist concept of tea-sea symbolism and introduce another level, the image of teacups being filled with the sea water on shore, like an ontological dynamic of tea ceremony connecting different cultures, which leads me to the sculpture 4 Cups of the World, that became an attempt to visualize the space of the world using a matrix of lines, shapes, and emptiness. This reconstitution, the world atlas, on the ready-made objects, developed the discourse of the familiar materials that can construct forms of entwining trajectories that comprises the mental texture of the world. To create image of simultaneous movement and stillness, of balance of an unending world's line that spins around the stillness, which is a rise of the 4 teacups. Tea is the essential element of this sculpture, but manifested itself indirectly only in the image of the teacups, to reveal a tea state of mind and the vision of the world's dynamic. In the essay on movement, knowledge, and description, Tim Ingold talks about vision of life as a phenomenon of lines. This has taken him to examining the use of lines in culture and the relationship between anthropology, architecture, art, and design. His writing is within the anthropological realm of phenomenology, explores the human being changed by space and place, and the key is the perception of movement, which I am combining with the stillness in a sculptural form to reflect on a point of observation that set in motion and describes the path of the world's lines. To be not in place but along path is the condition of being, and to be imagined as the line of its own movement or as a bundle of lines. I am visualizing the idea of life's fluidity by creating works that swings between emptiness and fullness, experience on the combined scale of the individual and global. I have been focused on form and rhythm to communicate and employed the notion of simultaneity, foreseeing paths as having independent life when liberated from subject matter, and to describe the space of the world using the matrix formed of lines, or one unending spiraling line that spins around the body of inner stillness, orbiting close, spiraling out into space and creating an energy field. I was inspired by the phrase from the Heart Sutra, "Form is emptiness, emptiness is form," which many Western philosophers also using in their concepts, as well as artists, like in the sculptures of Anthony Gormley and Suki Barber. The emptiness is playing a big part of the art, and the balance between emptiness and form, the major phenomenon of life, presented in some of their works. I want to finish by saying that this vision can be achieved in a calm state of mind after drinking just 4 little cups of good tea, which could hold the structure of the whole world.